Shalom, my friends. Welcome to Weekly Parsha with Yehuda. This week's Parsha is Parshat Metzora. So let's get into the Parsha. So basically, this is about people afflicted with Tzaaras, which is the spots, the lesions on the skin that to these days we really don't have. It's kind of a mystery. Well, anyway, it talks about the way to be cleansed of these: taking 2 live clean birds, a cedar stick, and a strip of crimson wool and hyssop. And apparently this was sort of like the remedy that was used to deal with these lesions. So the idea is that these lesions, from what I understand, are a lot of times connected to being impure through impure speech is one way to contract these. It's said that after Miriam, and this is later, I think in the book of Bamidbar in Numbers, that she was stricken with Tzaaras. So this is what to do when you get stricken with this skin lesion situation. So a lot of people, like I said, connect it to Lashon Hara, which is basically speech that you shouldn't, gossip, saying bad things about other people. So anyway, so it's talking about korbanos, I guess, slaughtering the bird and combining the ingredients to deal with how to get the tzaarat away from the person's skin to basically heal them. And they're cleansed, and they shave off their hair and immerse them in water, and they become clean. And, the whole quarantine situation, post-COVID, we all know how that goes. Interesting. Shave off all his hair, his beard, his eyebrows. Indeed, all his hair shall shave it off. Wow. Interesting. And on the 8th day, he shall take 2 unblemished lambs and 1 unblemished ewe in its first year, and take them and I guess make these offerings. And yeah, so this is basically the purification process using the Kohen, who basically serves as kind of like the doctor in a sense. Yes, so moving on. So there we have a burnt offering of a lamb. It looks like a korban chatat, right? The guilt offering, right? And great, so discussing how that works. Cohen takes some blood of the guilt offering and then place it in the cartilage right ear of the person being cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand and the big toe of his right foot. So this is that purification process to deal with that. An index finger 7 times, sprinkling with the oil. Very precise ritual to deal with these cleanly procedures. So yeah, offerings and very specific things to effect atonement before the Lord. Yeah, so like I said, this is usually dealing, from what I understand, with Lashon Hara, basically speaking gossip about another person or that sort of thing. So, but if he is poor and can't afford these sacrifices, he shall take 1 male lamb as a guilt offering and waving an effect for atonement, and 1/10 of the ephah of a fine flour mixed together for the meal offering, and a log of oil, right? And then, of course, the turtle doves on there, basically what to do in any sort of situation to deal with the cleaning based on their financial situation. So, and then we have this lamb and the log of oil, and the Kohen will wave them before the Lord, and more guilt offerings, more sin offerings, more right ear, more, basically describing a similar procedure, if not the same. Yeah, more describing of similar, right? So this is, once again, how you deal. This is the law of one in whom there is a lesion of tzaarat, who cannot afford the full array of sacrifice when he is to be cleansed, right? So offering different alternatives. One burned down besides the meal offering and right. So this is the typical thing. We have different ways of dealing with it. Now today, obviously, we live in exile. We don't have a Cohen to do these types of things, so we confess, and it's going to say what to do in times of exile. And this is something we're going to get there when we get to Leviticus 26. And this is what we do when we have a functioning priesthood and we're not exiled. So, and now so here we have some interesting narrative. The Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron saying, when you come to the land of Canaan, which I'm going to give you as a possession, I place a legion of Tzaaras upon the house in the land of your possession. So this is saying that the legions, the Tzaaras, can actually go upon the houses, not necessarily just a person's skin, right? And so it says when they go into the land, that's going to be something that could happen, right? And one says, the one to whom the house belongs to comes and tells the Cohen, right, the priest, saying, something like a legion has appeared to me in the house. Interesting, right? The Cohen shall order that they clear out the house, right? It's like your house is infected before the Cohen comes out to look at the legion, so that everything in the house should not become unclean. After this, the Cohen shall come and look at the house, right? So look at the legion. This is a legion in the house, right? And it's a legion in the walls of the house consists of a dark green or dark red sunken looking stains appearing as if it is deeper than the wall. And the Cohen will go out of the house to the entrance of the house, and he shall quarantine the house for 7 days. Now it's interesting, right? Because we talk about, obviously on this channel, I like to relate the Torah to, the Torah Shebaal Peh, to the, the oral tradition. Regardless of whether or not you believe in it, you need a Cohen to do these types of things. A Cohen needs to be the expert in this. And like I said, we've preserved the Cohen, among Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Mizrahi. That's why we have the last name of Cohen in all of those Jewish diaspora communities, because we've preserved the line of Levi, and also, even more specifically, we've preserved the line of the Cohen, the line of Aaron. So we know, who these people are, their descendants are. And so when the third temple is built, Bimhei Yameinu, Bezrat Hashem, right? We will be able to potentially identify these sorts of situations again. Whether or not they will be applicable, to what degree, that's to be seen. But yeah, these days, it's hard to know. What exactly is Tzaaras? Tzaarat, right? So then this is describing the procedure, it says the Cohen shall order that they remove the stones upon the legion, I guess in the house, and cast them outside the clean place, to an unclean place, and scrape out the house from all inside and all around. They shall pour the mortar dust from what they scraped outside into an unclean place. Very interesting, right? And they shall take other stones and bring them instead these stones, and the plaster in the house, and if the legion returns and erupts in the house, after you remove the stones, and after the house had been scraped around, and after it had been plastered, it's like they have to rebuild the house or something, right? The Cohen shall come and look at it, and if the legion in the house is spread, it is malignant tzaaras in the house. It is unclean. It's like a malignant tumor. It just keeps going and going and going, right? Can't really do anything about that. Yeah, it's basically described like a cancer, and here in the Rashi, I guess it gives a little more detail, but I don't want to bore you all, so you can read that if you want. He shall demolish the house. Okay, so it's malignant. You got to get rid of the house. Anyone entering the house during all the days in the quarantine shall become unclean until the evening. And whoever lies down in the house shall immerse his garments, and whoever eats in the house shall immerse his garments. But if the Cohen comes and again and looks at the legion, and behold, the legion did not spread in the house after the house has been plastered, so that means, I guess, it's clean because the legion was healed. Interesting, yeah. Okay, fine. So then it's talking about the cleansing with the 2 birds and the cedar stick and the wool of crimson and hyssop. So, okay. Very similar procedure to cleaning the house as it is to cleaning a human. So, nice. So keeping on to the 5th Aliyah, we have more discussion about the cleanliness and uncleanliness, dealing with that. So, and the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, if any man has a discharge from his flesh, his discharge is unclean." So this is talking about hard to understand exactly what this is, but I guess this is a seminal discharge. Yeah, it's hard to once again understand exactly what this is speaking about. And this shall be the nature of his uncleanliness due to his discharge. If his flesh runs with his discharge, if his flesh is plugged up by his discharge, that is his uncleanliness. So, yeah, it's giving descriptions of what that means. Any bedding upon which the man with the discharge will lie shall become unclean. Any object upon which he sits shall become unclean. And the man who touches his bedding shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and he shall remain unclean until evening, because it's like a mikvah sort of thing. Anyone who sits on an object upon the man with the discharge will sit, he shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and shall remain unclean until the evening. These laws are a little bit more ambiguous today, how they work. So anyone who touches the flesh of the man with the discharge shall immerse himself. Okay, fine. So similar situation here. Once again, like I said, a lot of these laws are confusing to us today. We have more clear laws about how this works with women dealing with the discharge. So it says, an earthenware vessel which the man with the discharge will touch shall be broken. Any wooden vessel shall be rinsed with water. So earthenware is just, can't even deal with that, right? And the earthenware versus the wooden, like a lot of these things have to do with even with like kosher laws that we see dealing with the vessels, the kalim. When the man with the discharge is cleansed of his discharge, he shall count 7 days for himself in purification, immerse his garments. So, once again, yeah, there's more discussion about how this works in the Talmud, what it means today, right? So, fine, offerings and turtle doves and eighth day and similar sort of situation. So, moving on. Oh, okay, so maybe this might actually be, actually, now I remember. I think in the previous one it was a different, because that's talking about a zav, like it's a different situation. It's not a seminal discharge. I think it's talking about something that is, we don't know exactly what that discharge was, and I think here it's more because it says zara, like, so this is very clearly talking about that the seed of the woman, right? I did a whole video on that. But whatever. So we have, if you want to check that out, my video debunking the Genesis 3:15 application, that Christians try to do to Jesus. Give that a watch. But anyway, so this is talking about semen discharges specifically and what to do if a woman has a discharge or flesh discharging blood. Yeah, so this is more fleshed out, these sorts of laws, because it has more, we have more understanding of what we're really dealing with. So this is talking about the laws of Nida, whatever she lies on during her menstrual separation, so become unclean. So these are more, because we have more of an understanding of this. This is, before a man gets married, these laws of Nida are learned, but I guess you can read about them here in the Torah, obviously. This is, it says, if a man cohabits with her, the uncleanliness of her menstruation will be upon him. She shall be unclean for 7 days, and any bedding he lies upon shall become unclean. I don't want to get into it's a very complicated sort of thing. There's rabbinic stringency as to sort of, deal with it more. But I don't want to get too much into that here. For the intents and purposes of this video, just know that these laws are more or less observed by the religious Orthodox community regarding the laws of Nida. Very complicated subject, but I don't want to get too explicit. But so fine. Then on the 8th day, she has to take for herself too. So then there were sacrifices. Obviously, we don't do sacrifices. Basically, a woman goes to a mikvah and is clean, and then they can be together for, for relations, for intimacy. But a man and a woman are very much forbidden from being together when a woman is on her, going through menstrual cycle, and she's what we would deem impure based on the, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I hope this video has been a blessing to you. Pesach is coming up, so sell your chametz. Don't forget. Anyway, shalom aleichem.